What's worse, a baby or a face tattoo? Both are permanent. Both invite advice from people who can't even keep a houseplant alive. Both will inspire a stranger to walk up to you and be like, wow, you're so brave, I could never. And you know they really mean, wow, you're so stupid, I would never. Both are gonna make your parents cry. One ruins your face, one ruins your life. But let's get brutally honest. Which one's gonna have you dead-eyed staring at the mirror at 3 a.m. whispering, I've made a terrible mistake? Let's talk visibility. Face tattoos. Everybody sees it. You can't hide it. Babies. Everybody sees them. Everybody hears them. Everybody smells them. You can't leave them at home because apparently that's called neglect. But you can put them in a pillowcase for a while until they get old enough to start talking. Then they'll probably snitch. Step 1. Get a baby or someone that acts like a baby, even though in dog years you're old enough to have a mortgage. Step 2. You get your pillowcase. Step 3. You put the pillowcase over the baby. Voila. And you're done. Surprise! Let's talk aesthetics. Face tattoos, if you pick the right one, you can really pull it off. It's a high stakes gamble, but if you make it work, you'll look like a rock star. And if it doesn't, you're gonna have to sign up for a religion that believes in reincarnation. Babies, there's really no gamble. They're all ugly by default. They all look like little bobblehead aliens with sleep apnea. Every baby shows up to Earth looking like their Wi-Fi hasn't fully loaded yet. Just a confused, buffering sack of fluid staring into the void. And right now, I'm fighting the urge to ask you to comment which ethnicity you think has the ugliest baby. But let's be real, you already know who you're thinking of, and I know who you're thinking of, and you know that I know who you're thinking of, and we're gonna both get canceled for just making eye contact right now. Let's talk money. Face tattoo. It's a one-time cost, maybe a couple $100, maybe $1,000. Pay the artist, move on, never have to see them again. Baby, 18 years minimum, $500,000 if you're clipping coupons and using discount codes. And that's only if you're lucky enough to be from a culture that is not consistently raising their kids until they're 40 and paying all their bills. Or you're not stuck in an economy that requires you to both take care of your kids and your parents at the same time. That's called the sandwich generation. And you're not the bread, you're the meat, getting squeezed, drained, and slowly rotting while everyone takes a bite. Let's talk sleep. Face tattoos. Unless you have to sleep on your face, you're gonna be okay. I got tattoos on my neck and the first 2 days kind of hurt when I went to sleep, but then eventually the painful phase went away and we got into the itchy phase. And actually the itchy phase is much worse than the painful phase, but you can still fall asleep. Baby, you don't sleep, you beg for sleep, you pray for sleep. Sleep becomes a religion and you pray to a God that never answers. Or worse, you turn into one of those freaks who flex about how sleep deprived they are. They'll be like, I haven't slept in 3 days. Bruh, that's not a hustle. That's early onset brain damage. Don't make exhaustion your whole personality. Nobody's impressed by that. We're all too busy taking unscheduled naps in our childless homes. While we're on the topic of personalities, if you have a face tattoo, don't make it your whole personality. That's fucking lame. If you make being a parent your personality, that's also fucking lame. But if you're a parent, you're probably too sleep deprived, emotionally castrated, and broke to even notice. Let's talk regrets. Face tattoo, you can definitely regret, but laser removal exists. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it leaves scars. I would never do it. I would just learn to live with that shit, but at least it's possible. Baby, you pay for their food, pay for their school, pay for everything, and then they grow up and tell you to fuck off. And then they complain about you to their therapist, who you're also paying for. And there's no laser removal for that. Let's talk freedom. Face tattoo, you can catch a flight tomorrow. No problemo. You can just walk through security. Yeah, some people are gonna stare, but you'll still have plenty of time to buy $12 almonds right before you board. Baby, you're gonna need a spreadsheet, a car seat, onesies, diapers, pacifiers, barf towels, and a really plush teddy bear to soak up all your tears. Even with all of that preparation, you are still guaranteed to ruin the flight for the rest of us. I really think they should ban children off planes or have like children only flights. At this point, just store your baby up in the overhead compartment and hope that the turbulence will rock them to sleep. Or leave them in a pillowcase at home like nature intended. And who would you rather be beside on a flight? A screaming baby or a guy who just got a face tattoo and he's stuck in the itchy phase trying not to claw off his skin? Outside judgment. Face tattoos gonna get you judgment from closed-minded and lame people. A baby's gonna get judged by everybody. Family, friends, random people at Whole Foods, other parents, strangers like me sitting next to you on the plane wondering, why the fuck did you bring your ugly ass baby on this flight? You could have driven, taken a boat, waited 18 years. Regardless, both are gonna forever require you to believe you made the right decision. Unless you're one of my sisters. In the wise words of one of my sisters, and I'm not gonna tell you which one, don't do it. It's so hard. I'm glad mine are older now, but I wouldn't do it again. And she said this to me in front of them. And they're just sitting there like unpaid interns at their own existential crisis. And I thought about that. I was like, when I was a teenager, my mom once got so pissed off at me and she said, I wish you were never born. And yeah, that sounds harsh, and no, I'm not throwing my mom under the bus. It's really, how offended can you get as a kid? Truth is, I didn't ask to be born. It's not like we made this decision together. Saying I wish I never had you doesn't hurt as much as you think. We've all seen enough stupid babies, bratty kids, entitled tweens, ridiculous teenagers, and gross 28-year-olds still living off their parents to realize parents should be able to regret having you every now and then. And sometimes you need to hear it, if for no other reason so you can say the same thing to your little mistake when they get old enough to understand. Just make sure they're old enough to properly internalize the trauma. So whether you're getting uglier with a face tattoo or adding the joy non-parents could never understand, both are just people decorating their future with irreversible shit that they hope doesn't age badly. The real difference, one is more socially acceptable than the other. Tattoos still have a long way to go to be fully socially accepted. There's a stigma. People feel fully entitled to judge your entire soul based on how much ink you've stabbed into your skin. See, babies don't have that stigma. They have something worse. What's worse than stigma, you ask? It's romance, my handsome friends. Yes, romance. The enemy of logic, the gateway drug to bad decisions. You want to justify a terrible choice? Romanticize it. We romanticize babies. We say people are building a legacy and that parents have the most important job in the world. And we let people call their children their greatest accomplishment. No, bruh. Getting laid was your greatest accomplishment. Getting pregnant was just a consequence. Everything after that is just crisis management. But none of us are concerned with reality. We just love a romantic twist because that's what's socially accepted. Socially acceptable. Socially accepted. Social motherfucking acceptance. That's the sacred standard. We don't live by the truth. We live by consensus. And eventually we start believing socially acceptable means good, not socially acceptable means bad. Social acceptance becomes our truth, our wisdom, our God. And like every other God we've invented, you're an asshole if you question it. How fucked up is this idea of being socially acceptable in the first place? Historically, what was considered socially acceptable? Let's go through the list. Owning slaves, selling humans at auctions, lynching human beings for public entertainment, considering homosexuality a crime, treating women and their bodies like property, thinking it's normal to marry off a 13-year-old, priests touching little kids, and of course, wait, all that stuff is still considered socially acceptable. Slavery? There are currently more human slaves on Earth right now than there's ever been in human history. There's estimated to be about 50 million people trapped in human slavery. That's forced labor, human trafficking, and outright ownership. 50 million. It's just that nobody's auctioning these people off on a wooden stage anymore because we've modernized. Now it's behind warehouses, massage parlors, sweatshops, fishing boats, supply chains, and half that shit you order with overnight delivery. See, we didn't end slavery. We outsourced it and gave it a tracking number. Remember when I said we're not auctioning off people on these wooden stages anymore? That was a lie. Turns out we just outsourced that shit too. This year, currently, while you're watching this, there are real life slave markets in Libya. Right now. Open air. Actual humans being sold like cattle.
We know that some people are being sold.
Yes.
Some people are being sold. Is this something you've heard about? Can you tell us about?
Sure.
Tell us.
I was sold. On my way coming, I was sold. Merciless beating. If you look at most of people here, if you check their body, you see the man, they're beating with electric. Even your boots on, they took something like a sharp object.
While the rest of us are arguing online about pronouns and egg prices. Lynching, well, public executions are still happening. We just called them state sanctioned. And if you scroll through the comment section of any police shooting, you'll see people really are entertained by them. And the algorithm will recommend related content depending on how many bullets you enjoy. And not all lynching needs to be physical violence anymore. Sometimes it's just a public murder of your reputation. Ruin someone's name, strip away their humanity, and they'll take enough propofol to lynch themselves. Homosexuality. You know they banned the publication of my book, How to Be Loved in Russia? Because I have a chapter about attending a same-sex wedding. The chapter wasn't about them being gay. The chapter wasn't even about their wedding. It was just about how cute the proposal was. They're not even together anymore. The couple broke up and Russia still won't publish the book. But let's not make this about me. You can still get the death penalty for being gay in Uganda, Iran, Saudi Arabia. Russia ain't the only one. Anti-LGBTQ propaganda is very strong in Eastern Europe. And shout out to India and the US. Both trying their darndest to reverse LGBTQ plus rights. While those same politicians are still secretly funding the gay escort economy. Dehumanizing women, treating them like property. Acid attacks still happening in South Asia and the Middle East. Parts of Africa, Middle East, and Southeast Asia are still participating in female genital mutilation. Honor killings, Pakistan, Jordan, Turkey, banned from education, Afghanistan, state-controlled reproductive rights everywhere. From forced sterilizations to China to ever-growing abortion bans in America. Because both communism and capitalism believe it's good policy to control a woman's body. Marrying kids off at 13, still happening around the world. Not just for religion, poverty recruits too. And then there's the good old US of A, the only United Nations country in the world that refuses to ratify the rule in the legal age for marriage, because nothing says the land of the free like child marriage loopholes. And in four states right now, there is no minimum age for marriage. Mississippi, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and California, there is literally no minimum age to get married. Zero, none. In those four states, you can legally marry a fetus as long as the paperwork clears. You want to know who taught me this? Chelsea Clinton. Subtle flex. And you know what I had to say say to her, and I'm going to paraphrase because I probably didn't use these exact words, but you're an Illuminati Clinton. If you can't do anything about this problem, what can the rest of us do? And she just gave me this face, a frustrated, defeated face, which is significantly worse than anything she could have said. Priests touching little boys. Do I need to say anything? The only miracles these churches have created is how long they've been getting away with it. But glad we stopped doing those, except for Myanmar, Sudan, and Ethiopia. But that's it. Well, there's also that big country that owns your favorite app, but we can't talk about them. And then there's those people who had the really bad done to them, and now they're out there doing one of their own, ironically. But we can't really call them because it's different with them, because they're really sensitive, and it hurts their feelings when you start pointing out how many little kids and babies they've killed. And if I bring it up, I'll get demonetized, deplatformed, shadow banned, canceled, and all that good stuff. And I'd have to get a real job and like wake up at a responsible time. Who the fuck wants that? So instead, we just won't mention the that are clearly still happening. It doesn't matter what the UN says, or the ICC, or dozens of independent organizations. They're all lying, apparently, because if you offend a sensitive they'll accuse you of being racist towards them, even though they're not a race, and they'll professionally gaslight you and say, you support terrorism. You're with the bad guys. You're basically Harvard. Mom, Dad, no. And as someone who hangs out with rich people, they really don't enjoy these conversations. They'd much rather talk about trans athletes taking over sports, because these conversations force them to recognize how much of their privilege is attached to these mass murder events. And then they'll stop inviting you to the parties. You know, the ones with all the pretty girls. So it's simple. You talk about you're gonna get demonetized and not invited to the parties with the pretty girls. So we just gonna put up our hands and be like, what? And that way we get to keep going to the parties and continue hanging out with the rich, cool people who call themselves elite and never have to worry about the price of eggs. Because there are no insiders, unless we're talking about dark-skinned countries. Because obviously the darker your skin, the more evil you are. Duh. Also, I want to apologize if that offends anybody. I bought that back when he was only offending dark-skinned people. But don't worry, even though these socially acceptable atrocities are still happening, they're not really happening. Because the heroes of the internet, they fixed it. They left a comment online. They typed, "This is unacceptable," under a headline they barely skimmed. Then they slid into my DMs and called me a piece of shit for not speaking out and spreading awareness. So they successfully cancel cultured me and fixed that geopolitical problem. Boom. Problem solved. To all the online activists out there, thank you for your hard activism work. You changed everything except for anything. There aren't any online activists watching this video. It's too long for their attention spans. They're too busy jerking off to outrage porn. This is public masturbation that is socially acceptable. Well, what would Gen Z say to that? Not jerking off to outrage porn. That's diabolical. I'm dead. Okay, back to the topic of being socially acceptable. Here is an actual list of things that used to be socially acceptable and hopefully they don't exist anymore. Cocaine in Coca-Cola, cigarettes in hospitals, smoking on planes, lead in your paint, drilling holes in people's heads to let the demons out, using heroin as cough syrup for kids, doctors literally prescribing patients cigarettes for anxiety. Imagine my book trying to compete with cigarettes to fight anxiety. So let's be clear, socially acceptable has never meant logical. Not about the truth, not about morality. Socially acceptable is just what most people are too scared to question at the moment. And weirdly, that should bring us some peace, because at least our stupidity is collaborative. Since we're all deciding this stuff together as a society, we win and lose as a group. Except we don't. See, because it's not us who's deciding what's socially acceptable. But humble, if we as a society and a collective aren't deciding what's socially acceptable, then who is? To answer that, I have to tell you a story about YouTube on YouTube. Susan Wojcicki, we used to call her Woj, bless her heart. She's the former CEO of YouTube and she recently passed away. She was the one that made the decision to focus on independent creators instead of trying to lure all the A+ celebrity Hollywood actors onto YouTube before the whole adpocalypse thing happened. And that's when The Rock and Will Smith were called in to save everybody. So I was at an event with her once and she's got 5 kids. All of them are really impressive. One of them was 10 and he was telling me how he develops apps. Another one was even younger and he was already coding. But one of her youngest children said something to me that I will never forget. She said, "We got to fly on a regular plane, and on those planes you get to have your own screen and you can order as much Coca-Cola as you want." And I was confused when she told me the story, and then Susan clarified, "We flew commercial when we normally fly private, and when we're flying, I don't let them have screens." See, as someone who's been on a private jet once, they don't have one screen per seat like a regular commercial flight. You guys wouldn't know that because you're normal. Back then I thought it was a cute billionaire flex story, until I realized something. Why would the CEO of YouTube ban her kids from using screens? I, like you, thought that YouTube was everybody's babysitter. And wouldn't it literally be how any parent survives a flight while their kid is annoying me? For her kids, no screen screens. Why? And then you start to wonder, does the CEO of McDonald's let his kids eat McDonald's? Do cigarette CEOs smoke? Do oil company CEOs drink from the same rivers they pollute? So when I think about all these really popular things that us regular people are using every single day, but the people who created them really aren't doing it, it made me wonder what really is socially acceptable. So maybe socially acceptable isn't decided by society, it's decided for society. And who's deciding for society? The people who have power over society. The ones who are pretending that they're doing it for the good of society. But really, it's not what's good for society, it's what's good for the engine of society, the economy. What we consider society is really just 3 billionaires in a trench coat, making up rules that keep them rich. Here's a better metaphor. A movie called Weekend at Bernie's. It's this movie from the 80s, and in the movie, there's this guy named Bernie, and he dies. But everyone's coming over to his house for a party. So these two guys who don't want anyone to think that they had something to do with him dying, they have to pretend that Bernie's still alive. They put some sunglasses on him, prop him up, and move his arms around to fool everybody. Because they benefit from the lie. But even though Bernie looks cool, and he's hosting this really cool party, he's still dead. That's a better analogy for society. What is society? It's nothing you can touch. You can't shake hands with society. You can't call it on the phone and ask for its opinions. Because what we call society actually doesn't exist. What does exist is our nervous system. And our nervous system needs to believe in a society because that's how it understands itself. Because we're tribal creatures. We're programmed to put the group's needs above our own. And that totally made sense when we were in groups of 150 people. Your tribe. People you actually knew. People you broke bread with. People you could look in the eyes. That's why when our parents say "Lok kange," what will people say? It mattered because they knew the lok. They were talking about the 40 aunties at the wedding, not the 8 billion strangers on the planet. Today we don't live in communities. We live in collections of strangers. We're not societies. We're economies. And every rule that exists is for the benefit of that economy. Society died a long time ago, but there's still a handful of people holding up that corpse, making it wave at you. So you keep showing up to the party. Because if we admit society's dead, then the party stops. And those billionaires' ability to make money without actually doing any work, it dries up.
Get your fucking ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
But what does any of this have to do with kids and face tattoos, Humble? To explain that, I gotta take you back to one of my first jobs. In high school, I used to work at this market research firm. We'd call businesses and do surveys about all the dumb shit. Photocopiers, mail, toner, blah, blah, blah. And employees would love talking to us because they love wasting time at work. Chill gig, great pay. And my supervisor was a really cool guy at first. He'd call me into his office and we'd just shoot the shit talking about movies, TV shows, and everything under the sun. And then one day everything changed. Almost overnight, this laid back guy that I used to work with got really, really strict. He turned into an anxious, micromanaging overlord. Why? He had a kid and shit got real. He wasn't working for himself anymore. He was working to feed a mouth. And losing that job isn't an option anymore when you have to feed another mouth. And that stuck with me. It traumatized me more than I expected. Maybe it was the betrayal. Watching a guy that I really admired turn into a little bitch. No offense to him. Well, a little offense. And that's when I realized having a kid doesn't just cost you your sleep, your summer body, and your sanity. It costs you your sovereignty. It locks you into this economy for life. In a modern economy, kids are not assets, they're liabilities. And if you're like me, an immigrant kid whose parents grew up in a village, you've seen it. They had a lot of siblings. Why? Because back then, kids were assets. They were labor. When you had babies, you were building a workforce that supported your village. Your kid wasn't a passion project. Your kid was an employee. And now capitalism flipped that. Kids don't work. They consume. Diapers, formula, iPad, after school activities, summer camp, private schools, university, therapy, drugs, more therapy. Then they move back into your house and take your master bedroom because house prices are skyrocketing. The US government is literally offering you money right now to have a child. But why do they want you to have kids so bad? Well, in addition to creating a workforce, having kids keeps you plugged into the machine longer. It makes you too busy to sit on a park bench and realize life should be more than working every day of the best years of my life. Having kids now means mouths to feed. And the best way to feed your child's mouth is to shut yours. Don't speak out when shit's unfair. Don't protest. Go to work, come home. Watch funny videos while you eat. Watch funny videos while you poop. And hope you get to retire. It isn't sustainable, but capitalism doesn't care if it's sustainable. As long as the wheels are spinning right now, that's all that matters. In 1970, the average woman on Earth was giving birth to 4.5 kids. In 2025, that has dropped down to 2.1. Once it drops below 2, that means we are not replacing ourselves anymore with new babies. In modern economies, workforces are shrinking. North America, Europe, China, India. Capitalism needs bodies. It needs new workers. Old people need young people to pay into their retirement systems. You have fewer kids, you have fewer workers, which means fewer paychecks, which means the system collapses. So what's the solution to this capitalism problem? Well, the one that's been working is called immigration. Bring in people from those countries that are producing more than 2.1 babies per woman and allow that to patch up this leaking workforce. But to do that, people have to learn how to coexist with immigrants. You know, people that speak different languages, eat different foods, different skin colors, and that makes a lot of people very uncomfortable, especially when a lot of these immigrants are going to be young men. And as a former young man, I can say this confidently. Young men of any ethnicity do dumb shit. So I want you to see the pattern. Society thrives, birth rates drop. Workforces shrink, society panics. They bring in immigrants to fill the gaps. People hate the immigrants. Politicians exploit that hate. And then they get more power by promising to stop the immigrants, while secretly knowing that they're not going to stop shit because they need the immigrants. Yes, being anti-immigrant makes you racist, period. Especially if you live on stolen land. And now the people that came here and colonized it think they have the right to tell other people who can and can't come, even though they desperately need these people to do the jobs that they won't do. And meanwhile, the ultimate immigrant dream is to become so successful in these colonizer countries that you yourself become anti-immigrant. So while everybody's playing this racist chess game, society keeps selling you the idea that you need to have kids. And this is the lifestyle that will be constantly presented to you. How you should look, shop, live, love. It's going to get reinforced through stories, through screens, through ads. These stories tell you what to buy. These stories tell you what family should look like. These stories tell you that you should express gratitude to people who wear camouflage and kill babies. Thank you for your service. Endless fucking stories pushing one simple religion. Buy more shit, ask less questions. It's what you're supposed to do. Go to school, get in debt. Get married, get in more debt. Have kids, add to that debt. Buy a home, debt. Get a dog. Listen, dogs are epic. Dogs are worth every penny. Go into debt for your dog. Renovate the kitchen, debt. Post it on Instagram. Die. Pass your debt on to your ugly baby. We don't ask, do I want this? We just try to stay on schedule. Society isn't your neighbors anymore. Not the gossiping aunties. It's just millions of strangers you've never met. Living in your head, judging every move you've ever made. That's not society. That's a simulated audience. Programmed by algorithms. So you're not afraid what your neighbor thinks about you. You're afraid of the imaginary strangers that can cancel you, even though they don't know you and will never meet you, and actually don't give a shit about you. But now you can hold them all in your hand, inside a little black mirror. Your body and your nervous system thinks you're performing for a stadium full of people every single day. We just call it modern society, but it's not real. It's mass surveillance dressed up as community. It's capitalism pretending to be family. It's monetized anxiety. But if society isn't real, and we still have all these ideas about what's socially acceptable, how are these ideas getting into our head? Because if Humble says society's dead, how is it still speaking to us? Does the ghost of society's past come at night every Christmas and whisper into our ear, "Hey buddy, don't recycle that outfit. People might talk." How do we know how to act, look, live, love, and believe? Where are the scripts coming from? Well, some came from our parents, school, culture, religion, old beliefs. This is all our legacy code. Software we never signed up to have, but we can't get rid of. Kind of like the calculator in our phone. But now, the updates, knowing what everybody's talking about, social media. We used to ask what's socially acceptable. Now we just check our phone. And social media is not telling us what people care about. It is deciding what we're supposed to care about. Every time you open your phone, you see it. The new thing you need to buy. Stanley Cups. Or that stupid little thing that people are hanging on their purse right now. Whatever new show you gotta binge before you get left out. Whatever new trend you gotta follow. The new restaurant you gotta stand up in line for. The latest moral outrage we need to perform. Because nothing says I care about this thing than an expiring 24-hour Instagram story. Social media isn't reflecting our values. It's assigning them. It's not telling us what matters in life. It's telling us what matters this week. The algorithm isn't serving our curiosity. It's colonizing our attention. We're not exploring life. We're being fed an itinerary. Like a cruise ship for your brain. You don't even get to pick where you stop. We're not living sovereign. We're following a script that updates every 72 hours. And here's the wild part. It doesn't just trap us. It teaches us to trap ourselves. The longer we scroll, the more we start to curate our brand, our image, our opinions, our feed, who we want to present ourselves to the rest of the world online. And the reward isn't any truth. The reward is attention. Ooh, that sweet, sweet dopamine that comes from getting attention and validation. We think we're choosing. We think we're optimizing. But really the choice is being made for us because we're being nudged in a direction. So we're optimizing for likes, optimizing for algorithms, optimizing for whatever's trending. Social media isn't freedom of speech. Open up your favorite app right now. Yes, you can post all you want about, but try posting about or we're censoring ourselves and deleting posts if they don't perform well. And deep down, we know it. We're playing a game we didn't design. We used to say, society said I should do this. Now it's everybody is talking about this, so I have to care about it. Everybody here being defined as the algorithm. And let's talk about the cost, because it's not just about wasted time. It's about bodies. It's about kids. Since the smartphone hit your pocket around 2007, the rates for young girls between 10 and 14 ending their existence have tripled. ER visits for young girls harming themselves up 300%. Over half of teenage girls are now reporting persistent sadness and hopelessness, and 1/3 have considered seriously ending their existence. And it's not just girls. Boys, they're drowning too, just in a different way. Fewer real friendships than a generation before them. Social disconnection skyrocketing. More isolation, more gaming addiction, more porn addiction. And when boys break, they don't spiral into self-harm. They spiral into ending their existence or committing violence on others. Girls are getting eaten alive by comparison. Boys are getting eaten alive by invisibility. Either way, both sides are being farmed for attention. We used to worry about about our kids getting kidnapped at the park. Now they're getting kidnapped in their own heads before they hit puberty. And every year this is skewing younger, because every year younger kids are getting these devices earlier. We're giving 10-year-olds devices more addictive than crack. They're billion-dollar nervous system hijackers. And we're saying, here you go, build your self-worth on strangers clicking hearts. The algorithm doesn't care about our sons and daughters' mental health. It cares about session duration, watch time, retention. And capitalism doesn't care if any of this makes sense. What will make sense is the fact that this system will only work as long as we keep participating. And here's the thing, nobody has a gun to your head. Nobody's forcing you. So why do we keep doing it? Because society isn't just telling us what's acceptable, it's training us to make sure everybody else stays in line too. When it comes to the cages of modern society, we are both the prisoners and the guards. And you'll notice everybody is a recruiter for the life they chose. If they're married, they want you married. If they have kids, they want you to have ugly ass kids. If they're single, they want you to be single, but not too single where you steal the people that they're trying to get with. If they're child free, they want you to be child free. If they're poly, they want you to meet their other people. If they're vegan, they're gonna bring it up without you asking. If they do ayahuasca, they want you to do ayahuasca. If they do Pilates, they want you to do Pilates. And if they're into NFTs, well, honestly, they're probably broke now, but they still want you to get into their NFTs. Do I still have any NFTs? Everybody's recruiting, because that's how they get validation that the choice that they made was the right one. And that validation helps them forget that their choice wasn't much of a choice at all. What they're really saying is, this is my outcome. This is the story that I've created to justify my outcome. And if your existence challenges my story, you're making me uncomfortable. So don't fuck with my story. Just become a part of it. And here's the real reason escaping all of this is so hard. It's not because we don't know what we want. It's because we're scared of what we'll lose along the way. We'll lose where we fit in. When we step off the script, we don't just risk judgment. We risk abandonment. We don't simply follow society because it makes sense. We follow it because we're terrified of being left behind. Because that hits us in our nervous system. For most of human history, if you got kicked out of the group, you died. Your brain doesn't know that the tribe is gone. Your brain doesn't know that the people aren't real. Your brain doesn't know that the stadium's fake. The crowd is invisible. Your brain just knows that the fear feels fucking real. And that's the legacy code still running in the background. And that's why we stay in marriages we hate, in jobs we hate, in cities we hate, in belief systems that we never chose. It's not because we're weak. It's because we're scared to lose love. And the sickest part is the people who profit off this, they know that. They don't just sell us products. They sell us the feeling of belonging. Wear this, believe this, post this, buy this, and we'll keep you safe. And I'm not here to judge anybody who wants to feel safe. I'm not going to judge anybody for wanting to keep people around them. I've had people cut me off as I cut off my puppet strings. What hurts even more than losing those people is killing off versions of myself that still wanted those strings to stick. Versions of myself that still wanted those strings to pull me along. It's like attending 1,000 funerals and seeing your face in the casket every single time. And you wonder, is any of this fucking worth it? Because everyone that's sticking to the script, driving their Teslas, having their kids, keeping their faces tattoo free, and posting all about it on socials, they kind of look happier. And maybe we're all just boxed in the suburbs and no one knows what we're hiding. So I can't answer that question for you, but what I can tell you from me is, as Lauryn Hill put it,
if everything must go, then go. That's how I choose to live.
And I'm not telling you to stop caring what other people think. It's not a light switch. You can't just flick it off. I just want to remind you that in this modern world we live in, caring doesn't reward you. It just delays the bullshit a little bit longer. So treat it like a dimmer and turn it down when you can. It's not going to happen overnight. Progress only exists gradually. And the best way to turn down how much you care about what society thinks is to turn up how much you care about what you think. Detachment doesn't come from meditating in the mountains. It comes from knowing what actually matters to you and letting everything else fade into the background. And if you still care about society, or at least the idea of one, then build it. Build your own little society. Because that's what societies have always been. Little, small and real in the analog world. Yes, digitally it feels like we have a community, but the longer that you watch me, the more likely you are to build some creepy parasocial relationship with me. And you're gonna start posting clips of my videos on your socials, like it's your personality. And then my assistant's gonna pretend to be me and repost them. And then you're going to repost my repost. And then somehow we're both going to feel this connection. When really I'm just a thousandaire exploiting your need to post shit to market my own shit. So instead, focus on building a real community in the real world. Start with yourself. Enough of you got multiple personalities and you're a whole community inside yourself. Create some harmony there. And if you want to help other people, solve real problems in your life that you can scale to help other people as well. And that's one of the fun features of modern society. If you solve problems for other people, even if you helped create those problems in the first place, you can get rich. Looking at you, bottled water. The real problem was never kids. It was never face tattoos. It's how many decisions we make because we're scared not to. So get the face tattoo, or have the baby, or get a tattoo of a baby on your face, or give your baby a face tattoo. Do whatever the fuck you want, because this life isn't a dress rehearsal. And as someone who's cut off a lot of puppet strings and is still working to cut off more, I can tell you some of my greatest sovereign moments are always followed by this little voice in my head, and it says, just imagine if you started this earlier. So here I am, hoping you start earlier than later, because you deserve to. You don't deserve anything less than full sovereignty from the bullshit that this world has become. Your best life is your most authentic life, and you deserve that. But honestly, the world deserves it too, because the world needs more unplugged humans to course correct what's happening, so there's still a future for the tattooed freaks and ugly babies of the world. When I talk about sovereignty, I'm not talking about rejecting this world. I'm talking about outgrowing the need to be accepted by it. Sovereignty isn't rebellion. It's refusing to outsource what matters to you. Refusing to outsource to these made up stories. Our lives begin the moment we stop believing society gets to decide for us. Because society, as it mattered, is dead. We're just a collection of people stuffed in big cities. Lonelier than ever, because none of these cities are even designed for us to connect anymore. But the more you own your decisions, right or wrong, the less you'll crave relief. And the more you'll crave connection. And real connection doesn't happen where you fit in. It happens where you authentically belong. Whether that's amongst the face-tatted weirdos or the dum-dums who decided to procreate. Pick your poison, pick your tribe, pick your fucking chaos, or don't pick at all. This is your life. Do whatever the fuck you want. Just make sure you follow me on Instagram, because God forbid I miss out on an opportunity to monetize on your sovereignty. If your beliefs are getting in your way, get this book. If you feel sorry for yourself too much, get this book. If you're struggling to love yourself, get this book. If you're an overthinker who's anxious as fuck, get this book. And make sure you subscribe, otherwise I'm giving her away to a cat family.